The world's largest crypto exchange gets sued by a powerful US regulator, causing crypto prices to decline. Is it all a nothing burger? We discuss all of this today in Collective Shift's weekly recap, actionable insights, and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes just for you. As always, we'll start with a market update, followed by the Binance news. But first, Matt, what does the market look like right now?
Thank you, Leon. The market has seen a lot of red today the past 24 hours. Bitcoin currently trading at 25,720. ETH currently at 1,820 US dollars. BTC down nearly 8% for the past 7 days, and ETH is down 4.5%. And we've seen the whole market actually slide down to about 1.15 trillion. As we know, this is the first week of June, and we are coming off officially what has been the first month as the first monthly decline. So May 2023 was the first fall for Bitcoin as well as the crypto market. ETH actually was up for the 5th straight month. So we'll see what comes of June, but definitely a very eventful start to the month, which we'll get into.
Awesome. And I know we have had some debt ceiling news as well. I think the debt ceiling has recently been raised. Do we know any details about this?
Yes, at last. It felt like it was going on for several weeks, but I know, I think over the weekend, Australian time, the US President Joe Biden signed legislation just lifting the debt ceiling and averting any new default. So more or less, it is just kicking the can down the road, and I think that will be sort of the last we hear for a while. In this case, he actually did sort of raise the debt limit. I think previously it was talked about they might delay it, but really, they're just details at the end of the day. It's just kicking the can down the road. The US isn't going to default, and we can now have that issue, I guess, behind us being sort of the market and sort of the economy.
Yeah, that's right. The markets are forward looking. They want to know what's next. Is it AI? They're not thinking about the debt ceiling anymore now. It's way behind us. Yeah. But I guess the markets have been suffering a bit because of the recent Binance news and the SEC and associated cryptocurrencies as well. But Matt, I'm going to bring this back to you, and then we'll go up onto Nick, and we'll have a group discussion about it. So the SEC has recently come out and released a giant report going after Binance, so specifically Binance US as well as CZ. Let's talk about it. So currently, what is this report saying?
Yeah, so I think this came in overnight. The SEC, they look after, it's an agency, federal agency in the US, they look after, protecting investors from, just all laws related to securities. They came out and sued Binance and some entities in Binance for, a string of, there's actually a lot of charges. And mostly similar to what we saw maybe a couple of months ago with the CFTC, basically just accusing Binance of, not complying with anti-terrorism legislation and sort of, KYC or know your customer, and then also accusing them of, basically being a very cloudy sort of corporate structure where maybe the entities are conflicted interest and are actually sort of overlapping, and there's things such as commingling and other terms, which we'll discuss. Basically, if you'd been working in the industry a while, we sort of, it was pretty likely that something like this was going to happen. I think after the CFTC one in March, a lot of people were sort of like, all right, there will be another sort of, filing coming out from another agency, most likely. And we may even still get more different agencies coming after Binance in the coming weeks or months. And then we did see, of course, the market really sell off pretty aggressively in the hours after that, particularly because, in their sort of roughly 130-page sort of complaint, they did also in that, there was about 10 assets or so that, cryptocurrencies that the SEC basically came out and accused Binance of being like, hey, you listed this, you sold this, and we believe this is a security. Therefore, you were an unlicensed exchange selling this unregistered security to US citizens. And the tokens, I suppose, that were in that list, which we'll probably go into coming up, but they basically all, I guess, outperformed to the downside. They sold off more heavily than the market, and it was a particularly rough day for those sort of cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, well, thanks for the TLDR then, Matt. I want to bring it back to you, Nick. Nick, what do you think about the current situation and what's happening with this SEC news? Is it all or nothing burger? Should people at Collective Shift be worried at all? What's the market thinking? What do you think?
I guess, yeah, we can probably break up each of those complaints after this. But should you be worried? I would be pretty alarmed because Binance is the biggest crypto exchange in the market at the moment, and a lot of crypto companies interact with Binance, and so they hold a significant market share. I think it's something like, what was peaked at 80% of spot volumes. That's probably declined from its previous filing from the CFTC, which, as Matt talked about, was another government agency that was coming after Binance about, potentially offering commodity services that they weren't allowed to, or providing services that they weren't registered, and not, providing the appropriate compliance measures. So this sort of builds on that. And as Matt said, I'm expecting further government agency action, whether that's criminal action against Binance or CZ. I don't think that's definitely not out of the equation. And so if we do see that, it would be even more concerning, I think, for the market. I was actually surprised that the market didn't sell off as crazy. From what we saw, it was 5-7%, sort of come back a bit now. But this is some of the biggest news all year, and move prices, a bit. But I'm not sure if you guys feel a similar way, that it didn't move it as much. But I still think no matter what exchange you have, definitely having your cryptocurrency in your own custody is of importance. And, we're not sure whether we're going to see withdrawals start to be paused if we see more aggressive outflows from the exchange. So it's, at the moment, just a wait and see, but definitely make sure that you're securing your own cryptocurrency, I think.
Yeah, Nick, I totally agree with you there. I think the market actually didn't react as strongly as I thought it would. I was expecting maybe 10%, maybe minus 15% of the markets. We really got a measly 5 and 6. And to us people in crypto, that's nothing. We have that for breakfast, so it doesn't really affect us, right? We just go back, keep DCAing. The other point I was going to make is that it's also very interesting that they decided to go after CZ and name him by name, and specifically go after him. Now, I know in the case of FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried was like the big guy, and he was like big target. But for CZ, he always likes to take the backstage behind things. He's not always in the US. He's not always going to conferences. He's not trying to meet politicians. So it's very interesting to me that they actually went after him. And I'm very interested to see what's going to happen from his point of view. I think he did make a tweet as a rebuttal to come back and say, of course, we're not doing this. We're going to fight this tooth and nail, just like Coinbase did. I just want to follow up on that and see what's going to happen in that perspective.
Yeah, just to add on to that, we've also seen about $1 billion of outflows out of Binance. That is significant, but if we consider the total amount of cryptocurrency that have been labeled by Binance on chain, that's something to the tune of 65 billion. So we're seeing 1 billion of that is a lot. So there's still room to move, though, I guess. Like, if we're comparing FTX to Binance, one of the biggest major distinctions for me is that we know how much funds Binance has, declared, whereas FTX, a big red flag that I think everybody in the industry overlooked, was the fact that they didn't declare any on-chain wallets. So that's something to least to look forward to, or to be able to track on-chain. So I feel like it could be a cascade effect if we start to see larger and larger withdrawals. And learning from the past too, one of the biggest issues is when withdrawals, or the confidence in withdrawals, all of a sudden hit, that creates this flywheel effect where people that weren't sure all of a sudden now want to double down because their confidence of getting their crypto out is hampered. So that's something as well that I'm sort of looking forward to in the coming week, and I'm sure we're going to hear more information come out about this.
Yeah, and Matt, would you agree with this as well? Would you say, like, just to be cautious, should we be part of this cohort that should be taking our coins off exchange now, so that we are kind of in that flywheel? Otherwise, we get left, right? We get left behind.
Yes, but in particular, I suppose in those moments as well, when people are rushing, you can make pretty poor sort of rush decisions. So yeah, it's like if you haven't already, read up, or even learn some of our Collective Shift resources, or even just the resources on the likes of Ledger or Trezor. Just get familiar with what that actually means to have your own wallet. Yes, there's some responsibilities, but the end of the day, they're very, very small, all things considered. Understand the risks, responsibilities on you to protect your sort of private keys and look after your own cryptocurrency. Because if you're going to be in this asset class for the long term, it's just the way to go, and it just helps you sleep at night. You don't have to, you're not having to speculate on Binance's sort of solvency and all of that. So I think that's definitely the way to go. And just on CZ, he was I guess sued in that March case as well by the CFTC. And one thing I suppose, if I'm personally going to be a bit critical of him, is that he's sort of reminding me a bit of I don't know if I'm just overthinking it, but his tweeting activity has really ramped up in recent days, and it's very reminiscent of SBF.
Oh no!
In the times of November, where he was just saying, "Oh, we're fine," and he's sort of just brushing off, this all this lawsuits, and I don't think Binance's lawyers will be too happy, but again, that doesn't inherently mean this is going to be a fraud.
Doesn't mean it's
just
bad.
Drawing similarities, in isolation, I guess it's okay.
I'm sure if you guys seen the poll that he did for those playing along at home, he pretty much held a poll: who protects investors more, Binance or the SEC? So that kind of erratic behavior, especially from somebody who, was, not as active on Twitter, and he sort of held his Twitter game. And once I'm seeing things like that, I'm kind of worried about seeing those similarities. Perhaps the other similarity as well we can discuss is one of the issues in this Binance case is the issue about the commingling of funds and the separation of potential trading arms that are potentially using Binance that are owned by CZ, potentially, whether I know this was talked about in the CFTC suit, potential for trading against customers, having a lot of your own capital on the platform, and potentially, commingling user funds to your own trading firm or your own entities. That's another similarity that I saw in this filing as well that was talked about.
Yeah, definitely. I guess a lot of overlap in certain aspects, and I think when we are talking about, I suppose, worst case scenario, I suppose just with Binance being, well, by far the largest exchange out there, it'd be probably multiples bigger than what FTX was at the time. I think they've got about 8,000 staff or employees, which actually, I think they announced last week or thereabouts, I think cut 1/5 of those, but that's still 8,000 staff. They've got over 120 sort of corporate entities. They're just massive. And so if this, worst case scenario, how likely this is, I guess it's unknown because we don't know the facts, but would be something like, all of what Nick said, it turns out to be true. More or less, Binance was operating fraudulently. They're not solvent, and then there's probably more criminal charges that come from the Department of Justice. CZ gets arrested. Binance US definitely gets shut down. Binance Global maybe gets shut down. That would be a worst case scenario in my opinion. People might think this is too extreme, but I actually think it would kind of probably would end the crypto industry as we know it for I honestly reckon it would put us back a good 4 or 5 years. People might think that's a bit extreme, but I just think if this happened in isolation, we didn't have what happened last year, sure. I don't think it would be that extreme, but it's only because of the timing of it that it comes after just the embarrassment of 2022. If this happened right now, and again, I'm not saying I don't know, and I personally just gut feel think it's extremely unlikely this is the case. Very, very, very small percentage, but it's possible, and I don't know all the facts. So I guess that's just my opinion there, where there'd be mass layoffs in the industry. People would have to go to other jobs. Just the size of the market would just collapse, and all the trust would be lost. Bitcoin, Ethereum, obviously are not Binance. Binance isn't cryptocurrency; it's just a company in the industry. But
BNB might.
I would think all the legitimacy of the space would all the credibility that's left, which there's a lot of it has left in the past 12 months. I think the rest of that would sort of be decimated, and we'd enter sort of like a crypto nuclear sort of winter. That's just my opinion anyway. Just to sort of, if people are out there listening, like, yeah, not understanding, I guess, the significance of it, because every week there is regulation and filings and complaints filed every week, really, in the space. But I guess we're only really focusing on this just because of the potential for it to be like such a enormous event. Well, it is in and of itself, as Nick said, probably one of the biggest events, if not the biggest, in 2023 so far. And then just has the potential to go even to another level. So just to sort of setting the stage there, I just thought that's just a level set, like why we're here tonight, I suppose.
Yeah, well said, man. Well said. And I want to bring it back to the audience as well there. So when you're at Collective Shift here, we always advocate for you to have a plan. If you need to take things off the exchange, you should have a plan set up already, either an exit or an entry plan, whichever it is. That's what Collective Shift does. We're here to help you get on board, get updated on what's happening in the market. So rest assured, we will keep you updated. If we think there needs to be severe action taken, we will keep you updated. So we'll end it there on the Binance news, but we'll definitely keep everyone updated on what's happening with it for now. Sorry, mate.
The one major thing we actually haven't talked about is which cryptocurrencies are being included, which is a pretty major, I think, thing that we had the co-mingling of funds and the issue around CZ. But then this is the other bracket of news is a bunch of cryptocurrencies have been labeled securities, which some shocked me. I didn't expect a few to be included in this bracket, and so that's another, I think, potential threat. And we even saw some of those cryptocurrencies, really be hampered and you trade much lower. I think to the tune of 10 or so %. I'm not sure if you got this, Matt.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter, Nick?
It matters because I think it's cryptocurrencies that don't normally, or maybe weren't worried about being lumped into the same bracket as some of these other altcoins, perhaps now kind of questioning their, I guess, status in the market. So an example here is Atom. Another one is Solana. So these are two pretty big cryptocurrencies, as well as a few other smaller ones, which go on, again, which sort of follow a similar theme of what happened in the last few weeks with another cryptocurrency called Algorand, which was, labeled a security in some other enforcement actions by the SEC. So we're seeing a group and a bucket of cryptocurrencies, that are really being targeted and included in this security status, but ETH yet to be talked about or mentioned throughout this, which I thought was pretty noteworthy.
I agree then as well. ETH wasn't mentioned at all in this, but they're going after small metaverse gaming coins like Axie Infinity, the Sandbox, and Decentraland. So if any of your metaverse tokens, the leaders are being charged, being thought of as being securities, what are the chances of your small gaming token being thought of as a security as well? So it's very interesting. I would say BNB being the biggest on there does have the biggest target on its back. And we've got all of this information up on the screen for you to read up. And we'll link definitely the article, the PDF for you down below so you can go and read it as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think, just very quickly, I think some of these like Matic, I think a lot of people don't know, 3 of them actually, Matic, so Polygon, then we got Axie Infinity and Sandbox. 3 of those had launchpad sales on Binance. So when they did their initial exchange offerings or initial coin offerings, they were all routed, I suppose, and hosted by Binance. That was something I sort of noted there. And, it is actually sort of worth the read just to see some of the, behavior of the founders, maybe like alluding to the price of their tokens and whatnot. But I think what's important here, just another sort of takeaway is, it's now like most of the top 10 by cryptocurrency in their list, really. Like, except for BTC, ETH, and then XRP, probably because they're filing with they're in their battle with the SEC, which has been going since I think December 2020 or December 2019. So these are very big cryptocurrencies by market cap. They're really going. I think that's a significant thing that did surprise me as well, Nick, to your point. So it'll be I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how this gets sorted out. Because it will have massive implications for like the future of this asset class, in my opinion.
And what I love to know is that BTC just keeps chugging along. The blockchain keeps running. Doesn't matter one company goes down, it keeps going. And that's the beauty of it, right? That's why we're here. Awesome. So I think we'll reach over now to Nick. There has been a new crypto bill, which I think is worth discussing. It's being dubbed the biggest piece of crypto legislation in 2023. So Nick, can you give us the scoop on this biggest piece of legislation?
Yeah, so this is a bit of legislation that is looking at bringing clarity to how the regulatory landscape for digital assets is being treated, and which cryptocurrencies potentially, are securities, which are commodities, how the market is structured. Because at the moment, one of the biggest issues in the market, it appears, is that there is no clarity between SEC, the CFTC, which are, the Commodity Commission, then you've got the Securities Commission, and there's just such a big gray area. And at the moment, some of these departments can get away with not giving much clarity or much understanding to those who may want to register or, have more information about what they're doing in the market at the moment. So this is a really big piece, and there's going to be a big meeting tomorrow and a big hearing with a few big names in the space. So this is one that I had a bit of a dig into and was quite positive about, in that we need this to happen in the market, or else we can't be living in this sort of gray zone forever, which is really toxic to getting any sort of investment into the space. So really keen to watch this one play out. And I know a lot of lawyers on crypto Twitter spend their weekend digging into this file.
Yeah, we're expecting so much regulation to be coming since FTX and Celsius and 3AC went down. So I'm not very surprised at this at all. And I'm glad that we do have some regulation, at least clarity, coming to the market. Matt, you were going to say something, mate.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'll just say, a lot of lawyers, crypto lawyers with their threads, a lot of thread wars over the weekend. We might be able to link to one or two below if people want a really summary, because it is over 100 pages of legislation.
Yeah, there's a few good points in there. One highlight I saw was even there was some discussion about labeling how much of the outstanding token supply for a cryptocurrency could label it as having, is controlled by a core team, which is a core, I think, consideration when you're looking at whether something's decentralized, whether it's, in the hands of a few that are working at, pumping the price, for example. So this is actually looking at, tossing out a 20% figure of outstanding supply, which, includes quite a lot, if not most, cryptocurrencies out there that weren't sort of, like Bitcoin and, fairly distributed or, at launch. So I think we're going to see some more fundamental understanding on what this is going to include, because this is only a draft at the moment. So we've got the hearing tomorrow, which should shed some light on exactly what these rules could be. And hopefully we can see some sort of tangible legislation by the end of the year.
Nick, you said something there that it's not a trick question, but I've got it just popped into my mind, and I'm hoping we could just discuss it 1 minute there. So if the SEC or whatever regulatory body says the outstanding tokens might be, controlled by a centralized entity, then what about Ethereum and it being, infinite, right? Because Ethereum doesn't have a hard cap. So it does have tokens that are being emitted in ETH2 post the merge. Is all of those tokens being controlled by an entity? It's a hard question to answer, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that's going to be part of the deliberation in how you measure that as well, because as you said, it's there's no set limit, but the mechanics that are driving ETH supply,
there's the information. Yeah,
it's going to be dwindle.
Yeah, that's something to ponder. As soon as you said that, it was in my mind. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Very interesting. Anyway, we'll move on, guys. We'll talk about the crypto winter. The crypto winter is still going on, unfortunately. I think generally we are kind of seeing the tail end of it. We are kind of wearing our head out into the summer. But Matt, I know the crypto winter is still striking companies out there. They are laying off. Do we have some new companies that have laid off some employees?
Yeah. I think some of the more established ones, like Nansen, a big sort of crypto data firm, they laid off a bit less than a third of their staff, and reports that Binance was going to lay off around a fifth or 20% of their 8,000 employees. So it is just anecdotally, it is pretty quiet out there, and it's that period of the cycle where you expect to see like more layoffs. It's just that typical thing about crypto. You've almost heavily incentivized to overhire on the way up so you can capture as much upside as possible. And then being such a young space and volatile asset class, you typically see,
shrink down
layoffs in the quiet period. So yeah, it's all part of the cycle.
Yeah, natural cycle. Awesome, man. And I know we did have some new news as well from the CBOE. What's the update there?
Yeah, so the CFTC, which we talked about in just the previous couple of segments, they approved a CBOE clear digitals, basically to clear margin digital asset futures. So it's like basically a margin, if you've got a crypto product, like a margin that is based on sort of margin or leverage, they now have the ability to sort of list those. From my understanding, I did just see that approved today. So again, there is still developments coming out, every day. And these would be only, I would assume they would only be relevant for BTC, maybe ETH sort of swaps and futures and all of that. So a somewhat positive sign in a pretty pretty bleak day for crypto.
Yeah, we got to keep it positive somehow, right? We'll take the good news as it comes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll start wrapping up the segments here, but we do have two more to go. We've reached now the part where we look at what we're looking forward to in the market. Now, I wonder, do you guys have anything in the next week or month that you might be looking forward to? Nick?
I guess more action against Binance. As I said, that this is a long process that will be going, and I'm sure we're not going to hear the last of Binance. Just tracking the withdrawals from their exchange, that's going to be a core point to see how confidence is, whether we're going to see big names start to withdraw from Binance. We'll probably find out whether they already have. There's on-chain sleuths that, you can't hide forever or you can't hide for long on the blockchain. So we're going to find out a lot more about who's been withdrawing, and also whether we're going to see criminal action and what's going to happen with a lot of these other cryptocurrencies that have been tied in this suit and labeled securities, whether they're going to see their own enforcement action. So I think just Binance watch for me for the next week.
Very nice, very nice. And Matt, mate, what are you looking forward to, or maybe not looking forward to in the near future, my friend?
For me, if big one for me is if exchanges in the US like choose to delist these cryptocurrencies that we talked about earlier that were mentioned in the lawsuit today. I think it's unlikely, but if one does, such as Kraken or Coinbase, delist the likes of Solana, you might see this sort of domino effect where the others will. And if that happened, I would expect the price to really crash.
Yeah.
Just keeping an eye out for a reaction to today's news, but I think it's unlikely, but see what happens.
Awesome. And I know, just to keep the audience updated there, El Salvador did have some news come out recently. They recently raised $1 billion in commitments for a new Bitcoin mine. Now, news is just emerging from this, so we will keep you updated when we have more information. But I really want to find out, because El Salvador is the first country to legalize Bitcoin. And that is a giant milestone, if I'm correct there. So I'm very proud of El Salvador. I want to go there and visit. So hopefully I can take some Bitcoin and buy some coffee. That'd be nice. Now, I guess we'll move on to our last segment, ladies and gentlemen, where we do some rapid fire, what we think is overappreciated or something that was underappreciated in the market. Nick, I'll let you go, my friend. I know you've got something.
Yeah, thanks for this. I think I might go underappreciated, even though a lot of people would be overappreciating it. So that might be confusing.
Sure. Hit me with it. Let's go.
Apple finally released their long-awaited entry into augmented reality and visual reality. So this was probably really overhyped, the announcement, because everyone was following it really closely. It was kind of the worst kept secret that Apple's was going to launch their new headset. Now, why I think it's underappreciated is for a lot of these metaverse coins that potentially lost the narrative with AI that's been all the rage in the markets. We've seen a lot of AI coins start to take center stage, and potentially a lot of these metaverse coins have really, and these metaverse narratives have been forgotten about. But for me, it's kind of a reminder that one of the biggest tech companies in the world is seeing, augmented reality, visual reality as something that is here to stay. And, they've had their first real big new product launch in about 8 years. So significant day for Apple. And I think it's really underappreciating this metaverse narrative, which has been lost in the market. So I'm really keen to keep track, see how it's going. And I know I've been really closely following a lot of the gaming and metaverse stuff.
Yeah, Nick, I'm following this as well. I think it will be quite difficult for developers to come on and play on the system, make new apps for the system. The headset itself costs $3,500 US. That's not for retail at all. That's for businesses. That's for companies. So I'm gonna think they're gonna have a hard time actually filling out. The good thing is, for crypto and metaverse, as you're discussing, they are using Unity. And these are the two biggest kind of gaming engines to create games, is Unity and Unreal Engine. Unity is on there already, so that might be a little bit of a plus, of the bonus for metaverse tokens. So watch it closely, I would say. I totally agree there. Myself here, I've got one, which is the Australian Federal Reserve, the Australian Reserve Bank has recently just put up our rates on our mortgages and our cash rate. It's now sitting at 4.1%, which is the highest it's been in a little bit. I do have a small image to show you, but I'll link it in the comment section below for you to see. Yeah, so watch out. Interest rates are going to be going up. This is only about 5-6 hours old. So yeah, if you've got a mortgage, your interest rates are going up, which is quite unfortunate, which means this is going to be passed on to renters, which means savings are going to be strangled a little bit. And we'll see, just giant macro effects in Australia. People are not going to have enough savings for a while. Yeah. Matt, what do you have? What do you underappreciated, or what do you overappreciated?
My one's like overlooked, I think, or just slept on, is the US government. Yeah, they've seized a lot of Bitcoin over the recent years just through, arresting people, taking their assets. And then they typically auction them off, which is what they do with Bitcoin. They're actually sitting on like a staggering amount of Bitcoin at the moment, 42,000. I'm not sure how they already got up to that much holdings. They announced earlier this year that they were going to sell it off, I think, in 4 separate tranches. And that was earlier in the year. Their last sale was quite a while ago now. We're almost talking nearly 3 months, where they sold their last tranche. They sold nearly 10,000 Bitcoin. It'd just be nice, personally, if this just hurries up, if they can just hurry up and sell it, I'd be very happy, because it's one overthing. I think it's one overhang just on the market, a bit of sell pressure that is inevitably going to hit the market. And I think they have just been sitting on it, which who's making these decisions?
Yeah, Matt,
when they said that they will sell and then they just keep holding, I don't know.
Yeah, Matt, this is the government. You expect them to do it quickly? No, come on. That's not how it works for them.
All
right.
Forgot.
Yeah. All right, my friends. So that's a wrap for this week. If you're looking for more insights, you got to check out our weekly revamped Collective Shift newsletter, providing free weekly market insights every Friday just for you. Subscribe at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter. Ciao for now.